Every runner will eventually ask, how do I avoid injury? And the internet will just tell you, do all these stretches, mobility routines, exercises to just improve your strength. And they'll give you a laundry list of things in order to prevent injury. Some will even say, avoid running altogether. Running is what's causing you to be injured. But there's no secret stretch that's just going to avoid injury altogether if you're not prepared for the amount of movement that you are going to do. The body was designed to move and to love doing it. And I'll show you how to do it well and injury-free. In this video, I'm going to go over my 4 hierarchy priorities of what is going to prevent injury the most in order of greatest to least. Now, I want you to stick around for that, but I want you to understand a concept between training stress and your training capacity first, and just this general dynamic. Training stress is the stress that you put on your joints when we're talking about injury. And with running, every stride that we take is some impact. That impact is going to cause a little bit of stress to your joints. So your bones, your tendons, your muscles, your ligaments. And it's actually going to tell them to build back stronger after your run in that recovery period. Running isn't necessarily bad, and I don't want you to avoid that impact altogether, because it's that impact over time, that training stress that we gradually ramp up on is what is going to help build your joints very slowly in order so that they can not get injured at the end of the day. Most running injuries are overuse injuries, unless we step in a pothole or something and sprain our ankle. But most of those injuries that just come from repetitive loading are overuse injuries. And that's when your capacity to, deal with that stress is lower than your training stress. So you're doing more than your body is capable of handling. So that's why we need our training stress curve to be more shallow than our capacity. And we need to have our capacity to be higher than the training stress we are doing. So at the end of the day, slowly build up your weekly running volumes. Track them meticulously. See how your body's responding so that your training stress doesn't become higher than your capacity, and then that is how overuse injury occurs. Number 4 is incredibly complex and comprehensive, but it is running technique. There is such a thing as natural running technique. I said at the beginning of this video, but the body was designed to move and to love doing it. A lot of us become sprint technique people. All right, the body was designed to move naturally in a way that's much more long distance running technique focused. There is a time and a place. Both have their, advantages of sprinting and accelerating. But if we try to run for long distances like a sprinter, we're just going to be causing a lot of issues both to our joints and also to our nervous system. It'll stress us out more. That long distance technique is going to just help you relax during your movement. So all kids that start to just run for fun will develop this long distance running technique. Now, a lot goes into it, from your arch being able to absorb force. Most people do not have any control of their foot or their big toe or their arch, but a lot of force should be absorbed in your arch. And there's ways of strengthening this, but everything from our foot strike to our cadence being a little bit quicker, about 170 to 180 steps per minute, the way we drive backwards with our hips, the way we rotate our hips, our arm swing, all of that goes into this. And a great resource out there, my favorite resource, is Find My Stride Coach. You can see him on Instagram. He's got a lot of great videos that just break down all of those components. And one of these days, I'm probably going to make my own running technique video. But for now, just know that it is incredibly important, but don't just force it into some awkward thing where you're constantly having to think about it. Just focus on one running component at a time, and always remember to just try to do it naturally. Try to frolic like a little kid, and you'll go a long way of just trying to become a more natural runner and running loose and relaxed and more naturally. Number 3 of our injury prevention hierarchy is just smartly programmed performance-based strength training. Strength training in and of itself is also gonna strengthen your bones, your tendons, your ligaments, and your muscles in a little bit different of a way than endurance training will. So you need to do both at the end of the day. Because a runner that only runs can become brittle, and a power lifter that only strength trains will get an overuse injury, which is probably a half a mile of running. So both have a time and a place. But the thing about performance-based strength training, which is unlike bodybuilding or powerlifting or things like that, is that it's going to improve your movement quality outside of the weight room. You know, we're going to get to build muscle size and strength on lifts that we enjoy in the weight room, but we're also going to do lots of things that are going to improve our performance outside of the weight room, where this is missing. I also made another YouTube video with a lot of these exercises. So, performance-based strength training. It's going to help you become more resilient, but it's also going to improve your movement quality outside of the weight room so that you're spreading out how much stress you're putting on your joints. Because when we have poor movement quality, we're going to overstress something like our knee if we're just a knee dominant runner. But if we engage a lot of other things and we strengthen them and everything is in balance on both sides of each joint, we're going to be able to prevent that injury. Priority number 2 in our hierarchy is the recovery. It's not just the training stress that we put ourselves under, it's training plus recovery after that training session is when you build that adaptation. And if you're not recovering well, you're not going to build your capacity to just prevent that injury, and you're not going to build that in a way where you're getting stronger, faster, fitter, or anything. You're not going to just respond to your training. It's the recovery that's important. I made an entire comprehensive long-form YouTube video about recovery, discussing what you should be spending the most time on, and those 4 priorities are smart programming, your diet. If we're under fueling or not eating the right things, we're not going to be fueling and putting the building blocks into those tissues so that they can build back stronger. Sleep is another recovery priority. You need to get lots of sleep. And then last is your stress management. If you are overly stressed outside of training, whether that's due to just your job, your family, whatever it is, your body is going to be in a constant state of fight or flight, and it is not going to go into recovery mode, no matter how good you do all those other things. Now we're going to go over the number 1 priority in our hierarchy. So this is what is going to prevent injury the most. It's not going to be a super, specific exercise or mobility routine or something that's just going to promise results. It is just smart programming at the end of the day, smart endurance programming. Some of the best runners in the world don't even do strength training. Strength training has a time and a place, and it is very useful, and I think that everybody should do it. But if we're going to try to prevent injuries from running, we need to do our running program smartly. So here are some of the ways that you can do it smartly. I already, hinted and talked about just slowly progressing your volumes up. The literature will say no more than 10% per week, but you can kind of just do 2 to 3 miles per week of increasing volume if you're new to that mileage. If you're working back up to a mileage you've got to before, you could do 4 to 5 miles per week and go up a little bit higher because you've already built a much higher capacity. Some of the other things are just periodization, going through a long-term program where you slowly build up easy mileage to the total amount of mileage you want to hit. And then without adding any mileage, you then add intensity. And in fact, a lot of people will even drop mileage when they add in higher intensities because a higher intensity has more impact. We also need to have easy days in our specific weeks and hard days. Not every day can be a hard day, meaning a longer run or a faster run. We need to have days in between that are easier, whether they're just slower nose breathing running so that we can relax and recover, or just more non-impact treadmill walk or stairmaster, elliptical, things like that, so we can keep our volume high but not, overdo our body's capacity to handle that stress. We also want to have recovery weeks. So these are just easier weeks where we drop our volume down by, anywhere from 40 to 50% of last week's volume. So if we did a 100-mile week, we're going to drop down to a 50 to 60-mile week. Now, dynamic warm-ups. Those are also critical to have. We need to have a good warm-up where we just are priming our body for movement after, especially if we're couch potatoes or office workers all day and we got tight and we don't move a lot frequently. So a dynamic mobility and just warm up will help you move better during your run. And when we come to the actual run itself, we need to slowly do a few warm-up miles of just nose breathing easy, no matter what the workout is. Even if it is just a long, easy run, those first few miles need to be slower than your easy pace that you're going to work up to. And then at the end of all your high intensity runs, you need to have a cool down of just nose breathing, easy intensity, where you're just going back into recovery mode. Your easy only runs, you just need to just keep going easy until the very end of the run. And there is no cool down because it's already at an easy pace. And then lastly, smart programming should have some auto regulation. This is where we program intensity first and then pace second. So that if you're feeling horrible that day, you will run at an intensity that is the same, but it will be at a slower pace. And then on days where you feel really good, go ahead, run at a faster pace. As long as it's the same, heart rate range or breathing rate, and we can take advantage of those days where we're feeling good and then go a little bit slower on days that we're feeling bad. So these are just a few general components of what should be in a solid endurance programming that is programmed smartly. In closing, don't overcomplicate it. So many people are just looking to blame their shoes, try to find a new secret, mobility or rehab exercise or all these things. And they're chasing, and then they'll just add like 30-minute warm-ups. At the end of the day, just focus on these broad concepts. So that's how you just keep building your capacity for years. And that's how those elites do it and just work up to 120, even 150-mile weeks sometimes. And that's just how you do this day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, and continue to make progress with both your endurance and your strength training simultaneously. So thanks for following along with this video. I hope you got something out of it. Train hard, live ready, and embrace the process.